Welcome to Serial Podcast 9.
Hi, I'm Kevin, and I have 4 right-hand drive Toyotas.
And I'm Gerard and I have various right-hand drive vehicles.
I'm Ryan Benoit, and this is Serial Podcast 9.
Today we'll be talking about right-hand drive cars, inflated pricing, demand and supply, rare parts, not so rare parts, but popular parts, parts that are vastly overpriced, parts that nobody gave a shit about, but all of a sudden are really, really, really popular and expensive.
All right, for context for everyone who wants to kind of like give an image of what we've gone through in Canada, say for like the last 15 years, I guess, with right-hand drive vehicles.
All right, so in Canada, we have a 15-year rule. So that means we've been having right-hand drive JDM cars for quite some time. I had a shop back in 2006, 7, 8, and that's when R32s first became available, and we had tons. Everybody's dream car was an R32, and they would buy them, and they have 100,000 K service life. So everybody would buy these cars, and they would drive them for a month or two, and they'd blow up. But they were still cheap. So at one point, I had a parking lot full of blown up GTRs, and nobody gave a shit. They were fairly worthless. And I mean, since then, you could import, 90s, 81s, 100s, Laurels, S13, 14, 15s, and they were all, you could get cars for decent prices, and all of a sudden cars are priced to the moon.
Back in the day, if you were going to buy like a JZX, what was like the average kind of price that you would be paying for one of those cars?
So generally the stick cars are about 3 to 5K higher. So I think you'd still be paying 8 to like 12, maybe something like that. I mean, a real nice one would be like 12.
You really think you're paying like 12K back in those times?
Well, when it was legal. You mean a 90?
Yeah, like an 81, or like, I feel like the cars in the beginning were expensive because there was very limited people importing them who knew what hoops to jump through and how to get them imported. They were super strict about the inspection. Like, people were putting Accord headlights.
Oh yeah, we did a bunch of those
because they were DOT, and like fully installing illuminated like reflectors off a trailer and into the quarter panels. But then everyone figured it out, and the prices of everything came down because everyone could import it for you, and the import fees kind of came down. Like, the other thing is like that Land Cruiser market, or the right-hand drive.
I mean, the Toyota truck market can get fucked.
Like, it doesn't even have to be the right-hand drive thing at that point. It's literally like, try to get a Toyota truck right now.
So I would add, coming from Saskatchewan, obviously, I have only been in BC for 7 years.
Where's that?
Above Montana.
Where's that?
I don't know. By Moose Jaw? I think I kind of agree with you. What happened initially, it seemed like there was a ton of like curbside kind of like right-hand drive dealers that opened up. Like, I remember all over the place. You could just like, they'll import it, and the prices were all over the place. And
Skyline Shop, bro.
Skyline Shop, Import Concern in Alberta. Like, there was stuff like that. So you have this sense of like, everyone was trying to do it. Everyone was trying to make a buck off of it. In that, it weeded out a bunch of like shady people, and people started doing it for themselves. And then your prices, it was like whoever was importing the car initially was paying the brunt of the fee, as you would expect with a car, right? Like, it's like, okay, it's going to devalue. Like, you just expect it to go down in price. Now it seems like we're on the opposite thing. So for instance, I bought my 5-speed Aristo for $9,000 7 years ago. And now it's like, how much is that worth? Like,
I don't know,
like
20?
Who really 25? Has the money though to import a fleet of vehicles and sit on them for 7 years?
Velocity.
Yeah, but they're not importing the right vehicles.
I mean, they got a bunch of vehicles, nice, not nice, but yeah, they have tons. I'm surprised they're still going. Yeah, Apple was importing a ton of like crazy high-end cars, or anything that's like,
I mean, they're very modified.
And they're financing them, which I think also probably helps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's how they can justify those prices too. It's like, because they, as a 19-year-old kid, you can just walk in and be like, yeah, like, I'll pay for this car for the next 13 years. Like,
yeah, so now you're buying a 15 to 20-year-old car for like
Yeah.
$20,000 to $30,000.
Yeah.
And I guess the question I have, in your guys' opinion, are they worth $20,000? Is a JZX100 worth the $30,000 or $25,000 like price tag that people are putting on it?
I mean, realistically, man, it's worth what you were going to pay for it. I mean, if you want a JZX100, right? Like this is your dream car. You know, you've played Gran Turismo, blah blah blah. You've watched all the option videos. You want a JZX, you want a JZX100, the chasers, the fucking cat's ass. You want it. Like, what's the difference between 15 grand and 22 grand?
Well, about 7 grand.
But I mean, that all comes down to like having the money too. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was a $40,000 JZX100 that was sold recently, and like it had a ton done to it. It was a sick car, but like, do you have 40,000 US to spend on a car? Is that your only car? Do you park it on the street because you live in an apartment in San Francisco? Like it kind of snowballs.
Let's just back it up a bit here. So my Aristo was originally purchased for $2,400. Landed. No, it was like 1,800. I think it was like, I don't know. It was like under $3,000 landed.
It was free.
Yeah, sorry.
They paid Gerard to take the car.
Yeah, and then what was your Altezza worth, Kevin? Like
the Altezza was, I think, 3,100 landed.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, I had a Crown Wagon for like $6,000. JZS 171W, like, one JVVTI wagon. It was like $6,000. I had a Verosa JZX. That thing landed was I don't know, $2,800. And this was only like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
And yeah, when I was looking for the whole reason I bought that Altezza was because a motor and transmission set out of an Altezza on eBay or whatever shipped to me was basically $200 less than me buying that entire car.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll just buy it, take the motor and transmission out that I want, sell the rest of the car, and recoup all of my money for the motor and transmission again.
Fun fact, I also bought a second Verosa for the Aero, and that thing landed. It was a 1G car with 18-inch wheels, Aero, and in immaculate condition. Landed was like, I don't know, $4,000 or $3,800. So I sold the car, sold the wheels, kept the Aero. It paid me a bunch of money to have the Aero for my other Verosa. So
then, Kevin, same question. Is the asking price for a JZX 100 right now, is that value? Like, do you find value in that? Do you think it's worth it?
I don't really have enough 100 experience. Like, you know what I mean? I haven't like driven one for long periods of time. I've never like driven one seriously on the track.
I mean, I also feel like you're talking to two of the guys that like kind of don't give a shit about 100s. Like Kevin would easily, and has built an Altezza that has a 1J. So essentially it's the same car. I would, rather have a 110 because it's the same car and it's cheaper.
I mean, I don't really think the 100 and the Altezza are the same car, Gerard. I don't really know how you could say that.
But you know what I mean? Like, you don't care enough about a 100 to like
no, I don't.
Pine over a 100 versus just buy a Crown or buy any other JZX powered car.
Totally.
I think what I'm doing here though is I'm not asking like, what are you pining over? I'm trying to get objective idea.
Yeah, no, I do. Do I think that the car is worth that much? Personally, no, because maybe it's just like that whole being cheap or not really caring, but it's like, why would I pay that for that when I can just buy a Crown?
So I personally, no one's going to ask me, but I'll answer it anyway. I fall more into the Kevin camp, but mine comes from probably just being older and have seen the prices the way that they were and being like, man, like Carter, for example, bought his for like $9,000 or something like that. Right. And now there's a sense where it's like, well, you could sell it for 22. And it's like, knowing that car was bought for $9,000. And in my mind, I thought he already had someone who was willing to pay 30 US when the minute it's legal. I didn't want to throw that out there. I didn't know if that was anyway, but yeah, maybe. I mean, I didn't really feel like we were like being shy on talking about the price. Right now. So someone wants to give him a big chunk of money for his car, but it's just knowing that thing, right? It's also like, I originally was an S chassis guy. I loved S13s. I bought the first 180 SX in Saskatchewan. like because I knew that I had to go to the insurer and have them put 180SX into the system. And I bought it for like $7,500, and it was like below 100,000 kilometers. It was in pretty good shape ish. And now you look at prices even of like S13s, they're super high, like from coming from Japan. It's just.
But I mean, it's all relative, right? Like it's like the supply is drying up, and then B, there are way more people into it, and that's just the whole thing of collectibles or rare items or desirable items. It's like if nobody gives a shit about them, you can buy them all day long. But if everybody wants one, the price is whatever someone's going to pay. Like if you got McDonald's worker A who's going to spend all his money on a $15,000 JZX, when you got like, I don't know, tech guy B who has a bunch more money, and he'd drop 25K no problem. And then all of a sudden JZX is 25
That's what
grand.
I was saying. It's like, you know what I mean? Like
I've never met a tech guy that knows what a JZX 100 is.
What a JZX is.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah. When is the last time you've been in a computer office?
Hey, maybe he designs FR Legends or something. You know, I don't know.
No. You know what? They're spending their mics on bicycles. That's what they're spending their money on.
True,
bicycles.
That's true. $7,000 bicycles.
Yeah, man. They got 3 of them. They're spending their money on bikes.
It's like it's not JZX though. It's like every Gran Turismo car.
Yeah.
Like every classic 90s Japanese car you could possibly think is cool. Like a FC, FD, NSX, Supra.
Yeah.
Like all of the JZXs, all of the Skylines. Like, is a Skyline R34 a $250,000 car?
But the answer is no.
The answer right now is yes. The question is why.
For example, well, I mean, the question is like, can you get one? Let's say you grew up playing Gran Turismo. You're like, fuck, that thing is sick. I want a GTR N1 or whatever, or a LM.
You're making it even
limited.
Too crazy. Like you're making it like one of 400 cars. Like just
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Those are the cars that are
just make it even a normal R34.
But those are the cars that are fetching that money, right? So now you finally have the money. You want that car. It's not really available, and it's just like buying a Porsche or buying a like a rare Mustang or something.
I have a friend who drove an FD, sold it, made a decent amount of money off of it, and he was like, I'm going to buy an R34. Like that's what I'm going to do. He was like, I'm going to spend up to $110,000 on this car.
Oh yeah.
So it wasn't like he makes good money. He comes from like a car background, and he said, I'm going to buy that car. And every time he went to auction, he got outbid on it. And then finally, one of her other friends stopped him and was like, what the fuck are you doing? Just buy a Porsche 911 Turbo for like 90 or 80 or whatever the price was. Like, you're fighting over this car that's not going to perform at what you're paying for it. Like, you're paying that price for a car that's not going to meet the performance requirements.
But I mean, like, what does a fucking Mustang handle like? Handles like garbage. Nobody gives a shit. It's just because it's a rare vehicle, and it has that status.
So now, are you talking about classic Mustangs, or
of course?
Mustang? Okay.
Well, desirable cars.
Like, what about like a classic Skyline or like a classic Laurel? Same thing. It's like they are so expensive, but like they're like, are they like the best performing car? No, you're buying it because you like the styling and the like the sound of the motor, and
rarity,
the look. Yeah, they're priced that way because of the rarity.
Which actually brings me to my next kind of point, because we've kind of touched on like the muscle car thing, and I wonder, do you think muscle car guys went through this where there was like where they were like, man, people are paying shit tons of money for this car, and it's like, I'm going to dump it on the market, and then things are going to settle down, and then I'm going to like level up and buy a different car? Or like, because the truth is, most of these guys, I don't think, stop caring about cars. Now, when I say this, is like a lot of the dudes that have these Japanese cars now, the right-hand drives, especially in Canada, are seeing all the dollar signs that are attached to the right-hand drive that they have, and it's like open season. Everyone's tossing their cars up, and then you're seeing like they're going into the Waffle Houses, so that's another thing that probably helps keep the numbers a bit higher.
Yeah, and then also in Vancouver right now, that you can't drive your car, so that's like it's literally just a huge bag of money sitting there that you're not getting to enjoy.
If you can find the buyer for it, which is also.
I mean, let's just stop for a second too. And the huge elephant in the room is this goddamn coronavirus. I think that's a huge player in the inflated pricing of, you know what I mean? Like people can sit on their computers for hours on end and just look at these cars and then be like, you know what, fuck, I can't travel, I can't do this, I'm just going to buy this car. And then
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
oh, it happens
You
to
didn't go
be
to
five.
Europe this year, so now you can like spend a bunch of extra on some
Yeah.
toy.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh wow, it's $5,000 more. Like whoopty fuck. And then it's like, oh shit, like this guy's buying it for, you know, and then the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So
Coronavirus thing has like totally affected just the entire used car
Yeah,
market, not
everything.
just like the JDM car market, because they used to have like all these rental cars being dumped into used car market. So that was a huge pool of cars for plebs to buy.
Bro, our Sienna's a used rental car.
People are like, oh shit, like I don't want to be on the bus and be in public transit with people, so they're like buying cars when maybe they wouldn't have bought cars before. The like amount of imported cars is way down. Factories shut down, so like the amount of new cars being produced is also way down. So it's like the kind of perfect storm of like all of the supplies of cars being down, but also all the demand for cars being up.
Listen, you guys, I didn't come here to talk about economics with, I came here to shit on people spending too much money on right-hand drives.
Like, you know, is an R31 like worth what it's worth? Or do you just love it because you love that vibe and that nostalgia? That was a really weird example.
Yeah, who loves R31?
Yeah, like R31 house does.
Here's the thing for me, and like, so people have this focus on, let's call it a JZX100. People have the focus on the Supra. People have the focus on, I mean, you know, you can't really get away from an FD or an FC or an NSX. Those are only those cars. But like within the JZX family, it's like, yeah, you have the Aristos, you have the Crowns, you have the 110s, you know, and in the Nissan camp, you have the Laurels, the Stadias, you know, I mean, anything that's R chassis is huge money. But I mean, you can literally just buy a fucking Laurel, like a C34 or a C35, and it's the same fucking car. I mean, it's a sedan, but like nobody really gives a shit about those. But you could easily build that car to be super sick. But like if it doesn't have the Skyline, or doesn't have the Chaser, or doesn't have the Supra, I guess people just want the iconic cars. So it's not like,
I think that's a valuable way to look at it. I was going to say this from the last time we talked.
yeah,
And you guys shit on the Aristo and the Altezza, which I thought was pretty funny. And then I was like, I like both of those cars, and I just let you shit on them for the sake of it.
Hey. I would say if I had a JZX100, like a Chaser, instead of the Aristo, 100% I would have been way more into it. So let's just say that. Because, I mean, Aristos are cool and they're different and they're whatever. They come with the 2JZ, but fuck those cars.
They're fine.
All right.
So is the Altezza.
I wanted to say something. You know how you're talking about like muscle cars?
Yeah.
Do you think within the next, whatever, 10 to 20 years, as all these people who like really loved muscle cars like pass on, do you think like the market's just going to be flooded with these muscle cars that people don't really care about, and the price of them is going to come down?
Here's what I'll say about that. This is the only take I can have on that is I have no fucking idea about any muscle car, but somebody must care about it. There still must be a niche out there that's going to prop up that market, I would imagine. And then I imagine that'll be kind of the same thing. It's like, I feel like our generation is going to sit around and lust over like 90s and very, very early 2000s, like Japanese cars.
I feel like, honestly, it's like the last era of like raw and acceptable cars. Like there's still like raw supercars and raw like the pinnacle of each car, like the GTR, you know, and the Supra.
GTR is not raw. You know what I mean? Come on.
But I mean, like, dude,
be realistic here.
Compared to like, okay, like where I was going with this was like I was listening to Musk and he was talking about how, you know, he kind of feels that like non-self-driving cars in the not so distant future are going to be like horses. It's like, it's not that horses aren't around, it's just horses aren't transportation. Horses are a hobby. Horses are like, you know, something that you do for fun. And that's what a non-self-driving car is going to be. But are you going to want to drive your 2012, 2018 like Sienna? I feel like you're going to want to drive something like more visceral and raw if you're trying to get that true experience. And like I feel like a R34 or like an FD or a 100 is kind of like the very beginning of the electronic age, where like you're truly with the car, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said R35, but yeah, R34 for sure.
But now here's the thing: is that just for us? Because like I think that's true, but then I wonder if there's a younger generation that will look at like maybe 350Zs/Zs.
I mean, those are still in the same boat, man.
Yeah,
350Z
yeah.
and R34.
All right.
That's
I hate them. Here's the thing: I didn't always hate them, but I hate them now. And that's like I was around in the scene when they came out, and I remember being like, "Holy shit, those are so great!" And
Yeah.
it's kind of, to me, it's like you either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain, and that's
Yeah.
what the 350Z to me is now. It's just like, why are you straight piped, and why do you sound awful, and
why do you have orange wheels
why? Yeah, and it's
and
just
flat
like,
black paint?
Why? And it's taken over this thing that I used to think was just amazing.
But maybe that's just because of the availability, you know? Like when they're so cheap, so available, and so
Well,
good, like it's hard to deny. And it's like the cheapest thing you can get into. So if you don't give a shit and you're the guy who's gonna spray paint half his wheel orange so it looks cool while he's out there drifting on the, you know, completely stock wheels with like no front bumper, and
Yeah.
you know, that's the kind of guy who's gonna get that car. There's
Yeah.
not that guy's not going to pay $15,000 for a
A
JZX.
JZX 100.
right.
You know?
So then maybe this is the thing though, is that 350Zs are the new S chassis. Or cool.
Well, it's funny because now an S chassis is probably worth more and is a more attention grabbing car. Whereas whatever, 7 years ago, like if you saw a 350Z driving, you're like, wow, man, that guy's putting it all on the line. He's drifting a $20,000 car that's pretty new.
Do you feel that the American market has done anything?
Oh, dude, like that's like a no-brainer.
Yeah,
but
they're
we
the
haven't
driving
said it.
force.
You can
They're the
literally
driving
watch.
force.
You can
Said it.
literally watch the price of everything in Canada, and it's not really that bad, and it's just kind of like steady, and then it goes up. And like the minute the stuff is U.S. legal, you're like, oh, I can sell it to the States for $5,000 more than what I could sell it for in Canada. But now I can sell it in USD and make 30 cents on the dollar as well.
But I mean, the thing is, it's not even if it's legal or not. It's just when they catch wind of anything that's fucking cool or anything that,
I mean, that's true. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like JZX 100s aren't legal, but like they'll still pay. They're the ones who are paying all the money for them. R34s aren't legal.
Yeah.
They never have been. And they still pay. Like, remember Motor Rex and all those guys? They were fucking selling them for $100,000 10 years ago.
Well, they had their own story attached to that.
Because of that market, because the Americans will pay whatever the fuck they want, you know? They'll just pay it.
But the market's so much bigger too.
Yeah,
it's way bigger.
But Canadians are turning around and asking Canadians to pay American prices for their car.
I was just gonna say that's the problem, is like because the American dollar is the driving force, then all the prices in Japan go up because they know that they can get that money. So the Canadians are priced out of the fucking market. Like unless you want to pay $20,000 for a JZX, like literally on B Ford or whatever, which is like, you know, bottom barrel fucking cars, you can't get a JZX that's manual for less than $20K.
It feels like we're priced out of the market, sort of, but we're not. We always have the upper hand. We have cars 10 years before them.
15.
And like,
10. Yeah.
No, we have 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we always get them for way cheaper before the market shoots up.
But that's the point, right? There's no more cars in the 2004 range that are desirable. So what are you going to get, a Skyline 350 GT, which is a G35? Nobody gives a fuck about that car.
Why would you buy the $7,000 2.5 liter NA version from Japan when you could buy the 3.5 liter NA version from North America for $4,000?
Yeah,
there's no advantage. It's not like the JZX where you're getting a motor that's fucking amazing and you're getting it for cheap, and you're getting a chassis that's pretty decent. There's no reason to buy that car.
That's another point. It's like the sheep mentality. It's like, I guarantee you 30 to 50% of these people never had a clue what a JZX 100 Chaser was like a fucking year or two ago. And it's just like, now it's all over the internet. Like, you know, like YouTubers are getting them or whatever it may be. They're in the limelight and people are like, fuck, that thing shreds. That thing's sick. And it's like everybody and their mom wants.
Funny story. When Carter took his to Super D the first time, someone saw his car sliding around. They're like, man, that guy's shredding his Volvo. And I was like, no, man, that's a Toyota. And he was blown away. Where should we be looking? Like, what new cars?
Well, see, that's the thing. Is like, so what does Toyota even make now that's even
I mean, the things
remotely
that
get
I'm
excited about?
like, I don't know, the Mark X, the 20 Crown. Those are kind of cool looking cars.
Kind of cool looking.
Okay, so we have those cars that Kevin stated. What kind of engine do they come with, and what kind of transmission
GR.
do
They have
V6,
the
automatic.
GR V6. They're all
Okay.
all Toyotas have always been
Yeah.
automatic.
Okay,
Maybe that's the appeal of the 100. It's like the only car that was like, all right, we'll give you a manual.
Maybe.
I mean, they
Well,
gave you one.
it
Yeah.
must
It's hard to
have been.
get. It's hard to find.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, is like because that crossover happened, like those cars, nobody knows what the fuck is after a JZX 100. People barely know what 110s are. It's like you could have a picture of like the sickest 110, like the Verosa, like the Freeze Verosa, or like any of those Mark IIs that are like remotely good looking, or Eric's car that had the blit front, and they're like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, but it's not a chaser. You know what I mean? It's like, well, actually, this is a fucking much better car. It has a US counterpart, and it looks way fucking cooler. So like, but like you're not, I guess it's not a 100. So
Again, part of that is subjective.
wait 2 years though, right? 2 years, and
Yeah,
that subjective switch is.
Yeah, you wait till someone comes along and builds it that has a lot of followers, and that's part of it, right? And
Exactly.
that's how it goes. Just all need to shake hands with the fact that like this era is probably almost done, and if you don't have what you want now, maybe you should start looking forward and picking the next chassis from like the mid 2000s to late 2000s that you want.
And I mean that's a perfect example of why Nissan will kind of always be that company, because like they never lost that focus. They have the 350, they have the 370, they have the new 400. I mean, the R35 is an insane car. They have the new sedans, the Q, with the VR motors. Like those things are insane. And then Toyota is just kind of like, well, here's a nice looking sedan with like a pretty average motor. Oh, you want a manual? We don't do that anymore. It's like you're gonna build an IS 250. Sure, I guess. Like,
What about ISF?
yeah, that's a cool car. But like, can you even put a manual in that car?
But I mean, to me, the ISF is like the R35. I mean, I'm not trying to argue for autos, but like I'm just saying it's like, like it is the best option, quote unquote, if you want ultimate performance.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a cool car.
And like Lexus, it's Lexus, and like if Lexus is going to make a performance car, they're going to make a, like the LFA. Like I don't think you can't roll the gears in LFA, right? Like,
I mean, the new Supra is a perfect example. It's like, like it's a good car, but like you don't see people buying Supras and going drifting because you can't.
Except in Formula D, I imagine. I don't watch Formula D anymore. Though,
if you take a Supra shell or chassis,
it's bare bone,
and then insert drivetrain B into it, sure, it's a Supra that's drifting, but you don't go and buy a Supra and then take it to a drift event.
Yeah, or like a stage jet. Oh no, wait, that's what someone is doing. Who is it? I can't remember.
I don't know. That guy must be an idiot.
The other thing that like is driving prices ridiculous right now is the whole Waffle House, where now you can ask whatever 30% more than is a reasonable asking price, and realistically get it actually in the bank, because people are buying spots at $100 a spot, and they feel like they stand a chance to win your car or wheels or whatever it may be. I feel that that's driving prices too. Like.
And I totally agree with you on that. I think that's true, because it's like you see people not be able to move their car for the amount that they're asking. So then they shift to the people can't see me do air quote on waffle. But the thing is like what we're not taking into account is that's not actual like selling costs. That's a chance to win a car. It's just gambling.
But I mean, buddy, guy
Does
A
the person who
sold it for
care?
$15,000. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit who bought it.
Exactly.
No, yeah, for sure.
Or where the money came from.
Yeah.
I want my money to be ethically sourced.
Yeah.
And fucking free range.
No Blitz blood diamonds for you.
That's right. I was gonna say, why are Blitz 3 so expensive?
Fucking, you're asking me, man. I don't even like those wheels. Like it's like a mediocre wheel, and all of a sudden it's like superstardom. Some people asking what, $3,000 for a pair? Like, get the fuck out of here.
To me,
sheep. That's all I gotta say.
It's funny you chant that, because I was about to say something, and it totally reflects on what I was about to say. It makes me almost not even want to say it. Yeah, I paid $1,400 for a pair of Longchamps for my Corolla, which back then seemed absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, even now it seems a bit ridiculous when I say it out loud, but I sold them for more than I paid for them. But also, yeah, that is probably one of those cheap things where it's just like, that was the wheel that I saw on the Corollas. That was the wheel that I liked. So no matter what the price was, like I was going to get that wheel for my Corolla. I'm also in like 15x10 -38. It was a huge size, but like,
Yeah, they were just sick.
Yeah, we get it. You're real cool.
no, I'm just saying,
it
it's like,
sounds dope.
it feels like that wheel was always super expensive because that was the wheel that went on the car that had that look, and everyone just same thing, sheep to that look, you know?
The Blitz 03 is a JZX 100 chaser of wheels, man. I mean, I'm not saying that it sucks. It's not a shitty wheel. It's round. It fits tires and it looks decent. But is it worth $3,000? Not a chance. For $3,000, you can get a set, like a brand new set of like way sicker wheels. You know why people don't? Because they can't look at a fucking work catalog and imagine a cool looking wheel. They have to see, oh, look at my buddy has Blitz 03s, or this guy has Blitz 03s. I want Blitz 03s. It's like there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of wheels that look better than that.
So I'll just be the devil's advocate here and be like, it's all about rarity here, though. You can't just go and order Blitz 03s out of the work catalog today.
No, you
like,
can't.
You can't buy them. You know what I mean? So there's only a limited supply in the earth, and you can't just go out and buy them brand new.
Well, let's talk about Volt GTCs. Let's talk about Veil Sides. Let's talk about Pia Razas. Let's talk about any other cool looking 3-piece wheel that like is not a Blitz 03. And like,
yeah, and
why do people?
They've all gone through the roof.
I mean, not
as much as that particular wheel.
I would say the Koenig Monster, like the SSR Koenigs, are probably
wheels, those wheels are so expensive as well.
But I mean, you can still get an OZ Futura, which is basically almost the same wheel for significantly cheaper. Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a wheel geek, so like, there's 100 million sets of wheels that I'd probably build before Blitz 03s. But then you're not going to get that same recognition at the car meet. Like, I got Veil Sides that are the craziest Veil Sides. Like 80% of the people don't even know what they are.
I thought they were ESRs.
Yeah, bro.
I have no ties to Blitz 03s. I think they're neat enough. I understand that they must capture some sense of nostalgia for some people somewhere, right? Which is what we're all chasing at this point, is like, I'm not a little kid anymore, like a 16-year-old buying a car. I'm gonna be 37, so it's like I'm just looking for things from like my glory days. You know, I just want to listen to Bruce Springsteen, drive around in an Aristo.
So are you gonna have a period correct 2000 Aristo?
Is my car period correct now?
See, I mean, that's a tough one, man. I feel that's subjective too. It's like,
yeah,
that's Gerard for no.
No, I think your car looks sick. I mean, that's what I mean. I think your car is period correct, but it's also like a cool period correct. It's not like, you have like some kind of bunk wheels on it. You have wheels that like look fitting and sporty, and they're in a really appropriate size for the car.
This is a perfect time for a shout out. Those wheels wouldn't fit the way they didn't if it wasn't for SERIALNINE parts. So that's a thing.
You know what you need? Ganadors.
Yes, that's an excellent thing to talk about.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, it was pretty funny. I've seen those mirrors. You see them all the time on YJ, like back in the day. And it's like all of a sudden people are flipping out for these Ganadors. And I was like,
yeah,
what's the deal with this, with Ganadors? I mean, they're like, whatever, kind of like a different mirror. They're not like amazing.
Yeah, they're like a E46 M3 style adapted to every car.
Yeah, and it's like all of a sudden people are paying like $500, $600, $800. I don't even know what they're worth anymore. But like,
dude, they're like
mirrors?
$1,100-$1,200.
Okay, yeah, like mirrors, dude. You're paying $1,200 for mirrors. What fucking turbo do you have on your car? Like, what LSD do you have in your car?
That's like spending $1,200 on like VIP tables.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, also like those like chasing or VIP taillights that are like whatever,
$1,000 to
$2,800 or more. Like, like I personally just feel like, yeah, there's like, way better ways to spend your money. But I mean, like once you have everything, I kind of, like
I
maybe there's
guess if
nothing
you're
left to do.
like those super guys that literally have to buy every single part aftermarket, regardless if it's better or not, it just is aftermarket.
Well, you got to check that box.
Yeah, you gotta check that box. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like this. It's just prices are insane.
But I think the one thing that we skirted was what car
Yes,
would
that's
we
a
be
good thing to talk
driving?
about.
Like, because it's like we've all said, like, oh, there's all these great cars, but like, look, Gerard is always, in my mind, going to take the most like out there car, try to drift it.
Yeah.
Kevin,
I just get what I can get for cheap. Honestly,
Yeah.
the UCF 20 Celsior though, that was like the one car that I was like, I want that car. I looked for that car. I bought that car.
The Verosa was cool. I would have definitely 100% built a Verosa.
But of course you would have, because the Verosa is such a weird looking car. Like that's what I mean. Is like,
But I mean, he has the Blit wagon, and he doesn't really seem to care about that so much. But you have the Nissan wagon, which is the same thing, which I can understand when it's like you have two pairs of shoes, one that's more comfortable than the other, and they're both white high tops, like.
Well, that's the thing is, I would gladly trade the Blit for a Verosa. I would 100% build a Verosa street drift car instead of the Blit. But I mean, I always just thought the Blit was kind of cool because it's so fucking weird and like kind of ugly and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's that's actually what I'm getting at right there. Is like the serial nine-ness of all this is like the Altezza and the Arista were dumb, and then you guys choose the more like rare kind of like.
We didn't have JZX 90s or 100s
child type thing.
Exactly.
Whatever. You choose.
I mean, the plan made sense from a business point, though. Those cars are available in North America. We can sell like the breed wide body for both of those cars. Like the Altezza one never got done, but like, that made sense from a business standpoint to have the cars that people could actually buy.
Yeah, I'm not here to question your business practices. That's not.
All right.
I think you're doing.
That's how. But I mean, I'm just saying that's why we ended up with those cars.
I think.
But I mean,
you're doing a really good job running Serial 9.
But it is also notable,
thanks, buddy.
It is also notable that neither of us gave a shit about JZX 100s before. I mean, we still don't really, but like, I think they're great cars, but we never. Those were never our goal cars.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever want one, Kevin?
Well, I mean, obviously not very much, because like we could have had them for pennies on the dollar to what they are now. But I mean,
I mean, they've been sitting outside our shop with blown motors for fucking months on end, and like.
But here's the thing: we still haven't answered. Like, we have Gerard's in the Stagia, which look, I don't fully expect people to listen to a Serial 9 podcast and be like, "Man, Gerard's got a Stagia wagon, I should go buy one of those and put a 2J in it and then drift it." Like that's, and like even the Crown, like I get the Crown has the same like setup as an Altezza, but like I don't also think that a lot of people are going to go out and be like, the meme king of Serial 9 has a Crown, I'm gonna go buy a Crown. Like
that's the thing. I guess Serial 9 is kind of always that, like, I don't know if you want to call it just being different or just being ahead or just being fucking anti-normal. I don't know what it is, but yeah,
it's all three of the things smushed together and living in like weird harmony, dancing on a piano. But it still doesn't answer the question for everyone else. It's like, if I didn't drive the Aristo, and I'm gonna buy a car from, let's say, the mid 2000s to be like a boy racer and whatever, what am I going to buy? Let's like try to predict what the future market is. Like, what is going to be the chassis that people are going to want to be in from the mid 2000s?
Hey, you name it from Toyota, Kevin, because I couldn't fucking tell you.
Yeah, I mean, from Toyota, the only thing that's going to stand the test of time is the BRZ. I mean, I don't care for that car, but like, you talk about boy racer car, car that was meant to be sold to that market. That's that car.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's funny you say that because it didn't even cross my mind. But that is the absolute
super funny,
answer.
like, because like I was asking Jake today, I'm like, hey Jake, you have $25,000. What do you buy? Like a brand new BRZ or an 8.6 Corolla? And he was just like, there's no way I'd spend $25,000 on either one of those cars. And I was like, yeah, man, neither would I. Like, neither would I.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, like what are you gonna pick? Like IS 350 because you can stick shift it? Like
Can I stick shift in IS 350?
Yes.
yeah, 350 came stick.
No,
250
250 came stick.
Oh, sorry, it's the other way. My bad.
Yeah. But I mean, you could put that tranny on.
You could put that tranny into that car. Yeah.
Okay.
But also, then you're stuck with a fucking GR 3.5 V6 that you can do absolutely nothing to because nobody makes parts for them.
Fucks with Toyotas. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like nobody
And
cracks
Toyota doesn't give a
ECUs.
exactly.
Yeah, Toyota doesn't give a shit about people tuning it. They just
them.
want to make like a reliable car that will still work everything in 20 years, which like you can respect. And that's why people, that's why there's people still like driving these missile cars. Like there's no people still driving missile Laurels. Like they just don't survive.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, fuck you, Nissan.
And it's super funny because you can literally see like a JZX90 or 100 that's like smashed to within millimeters of its life, yet it's still completely shredding because the engine, the drivetrain, the suspension, the brakes are still like 99% perfect. But like it's got no bumpers, no lights, no trunk, no rear end, no doors, no nothing.
Yeah, no windows.
But like the alignment still stays true, and like the drivetrain still lasts. You can still clutch kick that thing to the moon.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's why I love Toyotas.
But yeah, I mean that's 100%.
Funny you should say that because the question wasn't that's why I love Toyotas. But like that you got there. I was going to say the thing that excites me most that I learned from this call is that now I could buy an IS 350, bring it to you guys. I feel like we're good enough friends now and be like, hey, let's put a manual transmission in this. And now I'm just stoked on the future. Because I'm not you guys, and I love the most basic things possible for the import like car thing. So I like the idea of taking, I believe you guys referred to the Altezza and the first episode we did as a rear-wheel drive Civic. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that. I love that it is that thing because it gives you the opportunity to take it and like kind of make it your own. And it's like this blank canvas and whatever other hooey bullshit I can put on that. But I loved taking like mediocre things and trying to like make. To me, that's always been the essence of
like, SERIALNINE.
No, not SERIALNINE.
No, it totally is.
That totally is. Like,
I mean, none of us have had the nice cars. I've never had a Supra. We've never had a Chaser.
Yeah, I guess
it's like
you take the shitty ones.
The X8 Cressida. Like you don't take the 100 Chaser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm saying that based on your dislove for the Altezza, where I really like Altezzas, like, and I really like Aristos. I really like these like plain Jane cars. But you're right. You're more in that vicinity of like, but you still like the Verosas. Like I look at a Verosa and I'm like, hey, you know who can never own a Verosa? This guy. And I'm going to pick myself because I don't know what to do with that car because it's such an out there car to begin with. I know that if Gerard were to have a Verosa, it would probably look pretty cool because like Gerard's that personality type that could take a Verosa and build a Verosa. What I'm trying to get back to is I like the idea of putting manual transmission in an IS 350.
That's what all that was about.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
No, I like the idea that if anything ever happened to the Aristo, that there's.
Well, I can make that happen for you, brother. Let me take it for a drive on the track there, bro. I show it a nice wall.
Did somebody move that barrier? They moved those fucking barriers.
Yo, bro, I tried to.
Gerard moved that barrier.
Yeah, all right. So takeaway from this is, again, going back, if I told you had to build a car from the 2000s, we kind of already know what Gerard would do because he's doing it. Kevin, what would you do?
I don't know.
He's doing it. The Crown was made up to 2006, so there you go. He's doing it.
I don't know. I have the Aristo right now that I would gladly trade for like an IS 250 350.
I guess to take it back, the only reason I have the Stage is because if you ask me, the most exciting car from that era would be the 350Z or variants of that chassis. And so it would be like a G35 sedan or luckily for us, we get the M35, which is the Stagia. So it's basically just a 350Z wagon. So yeah, that's what I would build, and that's what I'm building.
So what did we learn today, guys?
JDM is expensive.
And the future is bleak.
The future is now.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Serial Podcast 9, episode 2.
Yes.
The Phantom Menace.
It's not the order of those movies.
That's what makes it even better.
Makes it worse. I'm upset about it. Bye, everybody.
Peace out.
Hasta luego.
Thanks for listening to Serial Podcast 9.